Most people think that HR exists to hire and fire people. Now, while this thought is not entirely wrong, I can categorically tell you that this is actually not entirely correct. Now, um, the thought of HR being the hirer and the firer in every organization has brought about quite a lot of mistrust, has led to damaged careers, and also has also led to conflict in the workplace. Today, I'm here to calmly and honestly tell you everything that has to do with human resource management and tell you what the HR person is meant to be doing in the organization, as well as point out areas where many HRs are failing and have failed in their careers. And whether you work in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in North America, organizations are built on the same structure: people, power, rules, and accountability. HR exists at the intersection of these four. Now, here's another thing you must know. In every organization, HR can be said to be working well when the organization is growing sustainably well. But some of the indicators to tell you that the HR is actually failing at whatever it is they are doing, you find things like fear, you find things like favoritism, you find things like silence, you find multiple lawsuits, you find mass resignations, you find rebellions. So here's the thing: it's time to stop seeing HR as a person and start seeing HR as a system. Now, that said, we'll now come to the point where we really have to spell out some of the things that HR is responsible for. Now, but before I go on with that, I'll need you to understand and take note of the fact that HR is not your personal lawyer. HR is not your personal lawyer, but HR is not your enemy. Just take note of that, because quite a lot of people have this mentality that the human resource person in every organization must be hard, must be harsh, must be this or that, things that are not really humanly. Now, the HR, though human, should be considered as a system. Now, what are some of the things that the human resource person is responsible for? Number one, the human resource person in every organization is to ensure that he or she manages risks that are people related, ethic related, and organizational related. Yeah. Then the human resource person is also responsible for generating systems that govern how people are hired, how people are managed, how people are exited, how people are disciplined, as well as how people are taken care of within the organization. The HR person is also there to ensure that the there's a balancing between business goals and human impact. So these are some of the things that the human resource person is there to ensure within any organization. Very importantly, I need you to know that the human resource person is also there to ensure consistency with policy stipulations and rules and guidelines within the organization. So the HR is not there for favoritism purposes. Okay, now let's examine some of the reasons why some employees do not trust HR. Now, one of the reasons is owing to the fact that many employees tend to experience HR through managers and not policies. So, in a situation where you have employees only depending on things that come from the managers, not things that come from the policy, it then becomes problematic. At that point, the HR now becomes more like a figurehead within such an organization, and that is not right. So that is one thing that needs to be fixed in every organization, in every country of the world. Another problem that causes employees not to trust HR in so many organizations is the fact that bad managers most times tend to hide behind HR. You understand? Now, when bad managers do things that are outside policy stipulations, they try to hide under HR and say, most times you hear things like the HR has demanded that this be done, the HR did this, the HR did this. So there is that lack of taking responsibility on the part of bad managers. The another problem is that HR most times communicates poorly. Now, maybe, and this could be as a result of poor understanding of issues, poor understanding of policy, poor understanding of things that pertains to the organization. So, lastly, one very important reason why employees hardly trust HR, especially in SMEs, small and medium enterprises, amongst other organizations, is owing to the fact that HR sometimes lacks courage. Yeah. So when the human resource person tends to be completely or totally dependent on what comes from management, which is not a wrong thing, which is not a bad thing, but shows it to the employees through his emotions or through her emotions or through how they react. It breeds some level of mistrust for them on the part of the employees. So now, whenever HR avoids difficult conversations, employees automatically fill in the gap with suspicion. So these are some of the reasons why human resource persons most times are not trusted by the employees within an organization. Now, that's it. Let's now look at some areas where HR itself fails. Some critical areas where HR itself fails. Now, top on the list is weak documentation. So when you are not able to properly keep your personnel records in such a way that easy access can be made to them, it becomes problematic on the part of the human resource person. And that is why IT programs have been integrated into the human resource package. And that's why today we have the human resource information system to ensure that it helps you put together every single information you need as regarding personnel or staff documentation. Then another issue is the selective enforcement of policy, where you find human resource persons and enforcing policy stipulations based on emotions, based on relationships, based on how close or how far away they are from certain people within the organization. Another very critical issue is this is silence in the face of power, where human resource persons stay mute when, especially in the face of management. So every human resource person is meant to understand and know that that human resource office is not a supporter of management, neither is it a supporter of employees. Now, let's now examine where HR itself fails. First of all, so many human resource persons do not know that ethical HR is not loud, but it is firm. So you have to you have to work more with firmness than loudness. Now, let's examine some of the areas where HR itself fails. One, weak documentation. Another area that HR feels heavily is selective enforcement of policy. You also have silence in the face of power, and then over alignments with leadership without balance. So when you are, as a human resource person, over aligning yourself with leadership over policy, it then becomes problematic. You don't enforce the correct things because you are listening to what leadership management has to say. Your job as a human resource person is to make sure that you go through the policy, understand what the policy says, and then you suggest it to the management where you need to suggest to the management, as well as advise employees where you need to advise employees. As a human resource person, the human resource system is not there to serve as a puppet to management, neither is this there to completely serve as a friendly tool for the employees. You are there to ensure workplace decorum as a human resource person, because it is what you do that determines whether the organization stands or falls. Now, having said all this, we'll now look at what employees and managers should actually understand. Now, for employees, here is what I would recommend. 1. Document your work. Always document your work. 2. Understand policies perfectly. Every organization should have a policy. If you find yourself in any organization, it is your responsibility to demand for the policy of such an organization so you can read it, digest it, internalize it, and then understand what it is talking about so that you know what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and why you should be doing such. Another thing you must do as an employee is to also ensure professional communication. You have to learn to communicate professionally, not just with the human resource person, but with every colleague within your organization. Then lastly, my recommendation to you as employees is to protect your reputation. Protecting your reputation will mean you have to will still take us back to the point of going through policy stipulations and then see if it aligns with your own paradigm. For managers, here's my recommendation. HR is not a weapon. Never have been, never will be. And I don't think it is fair for any manager to weaponize HR. HR is a system that's there to protect even you as a manager. So you don't use HR as a tool to threaten your employees. You don't use HR as a tool to be unruly within your organization. So you don't also do, you don't, now, another thing I also need you to understand is that poor people management always returns at a cost. So as a result of being a bad manager, if you don't manage your employees well, if you don't manage your talents well, if you don't manage your staff well, there's a tendency that you're going to cause a lot of problems for the organization where you work. On a final note, I'd like to tell you that strong organizations are built not by fear, not by silence, not by favoritism. Strong organizations are built by clear systems, fair enforcement, and respect for people. That is exactly what HR is meant to stand for everywhere in the world. If you love to see more of this content, just simply click the subscribe button, like, you can share, you can also drop your comments in the comment section. Thank you and hope to see you in our next episode.